into the grand finals of the Players' Cup Invitational between Alessio, Yuri, Boschetto, and Alex Gomez. I am so excited to see this match play out in full. As we heard before, Adam said we might see a bracket reset if it is Yuri that comes through the loser's bracket to take this first series. But as you mentioned, Aaron, no changes here from Alex. It is going to be that Lapras and the Whimsicott, but Yuri, on the other hand, does bring that Dusclops.
Yeah, so Dusclops is out immediately this time, and so this is a relatively free Trick Room. Yuri just going for the follow me to play it safe, doesn't want to eat up a potential taunt from that Whimsicott, so super safe play on Yuri's end. He's basically saying, I'm going to give up my Togekiss, but what I get as a result is not only do I get Trick Room up, but you also commit a turn of your Dynamax, and I get a free switch into the Primarina. So I like the different game plan this time around from Yuri's end. I think Alex here can just go for something like a taunt onto the Dusclops, hoping in case the Togekiss doesn't follow me, or you could just go for something like a fake Tears G-Max Resonance.
Togekiss goes for the follow me to try to redirect away any attacks coming in from Alex's Gigantamax Lapras, and the taunt comes through as well, so Togekiss will not be able to use follow me again after that taunt has gone off. G-Max Resonance also finding its mark into Yuri's Togekiss, which will be a one-hit knockout, so the taunt not going to matter too much, but Yuri gets a free switch.
Yeah, and the free switch is a really big deal because you actually don't really want Togekiss in this position, so Yuri's actually probably pretty happy he gets the Primarina in the back in for free. Rillaboom could come out also right now, but I think one thing that's important to note is the speed interaction between the Rillaboom and the Lapras. We haven't really seen that happen so far because in the previous set, Rillaboom kind of just fainted immediately. So Primarina is out, able to put on some offensive pressure, but as we've seen, Alex does have that Fake Tears combination with Max Lightning, and that still will do a lot of damage to Primarina. It's not a one-hit KO, but it will certainly chunk it for a considerable amount. So this turn, Alex might want to consider Fake Tears Max Lightning into that slot. If he, however, fears a potential Max Guard from the Primarina or Protect, he can double up onto the Dusclops slot. Whimsicott, of course, could also go for a taunt onto Dusclops just to prevent it from going for moves like Will-O-Wisp and Pain Split. So I think right now, Alex is... The big question is basically, who do you target with the Lapras? Do you predict the Protect from Primarina, or do you just double up onto the Dusclops, or do you just get that Fake Tears off immediately onto the Primarina?
Yeah, it's definitely an important question that needs to be answered because at the moment, while Alex does have that one Pokemon advantage, Yuri is in Trick Room with a Dynamax Primarina that we saw is a very, very slow variant of this Pokemon. So likely to move first in this setting, depending on how the Dusclops is trained as well. I'm just want to know how Alex is going to respond to this. So we will see Fake Tears, though, come out from the Whimsicott, so that's going to be Alex's response here. But targets down the Dusclops slot, not the Primarina. So Dusclops able to use the Nightshade to at least break a potential Focus Sash on this Whimsicott, and Max Starfall from Primarina moving next into the Whimsicott to double into it, and that will be a knockout.
So Alex does get a free switch in after this turn. I'm curious if Dusclops can actually hang on from a -2 Life Orb boosted Lapras G-Max attack. So let's see. It's going to be that G-Max Resonance. A knockout into Dusclops here would be absolutely huge. After that Fake Tears, is it enough? Oh, hangs on with 3 HP. Oh, and that's such a big deal. Yuri's Dusclops has that Pain Split as well, and with Alex not having any Pokemon slower than Dusclops, it's pretty much a guaranteed Pain Split, which just heals the Dusclops so much, and that's a huge, huge survival there onto the Dusclops. Conkeldurr comes out, but Conkeldurr is not really the Pokemon you want to have out against Dusclops and Primarina. Alex might have that Dracovish in the back because, that's the same mode he was playing with in the previous round, so if it is that Dracovish, this is really difficult, I think, for Alex at this point. He didn't get that Fake Tears off into Primarina either, so he needs to set up the rain so that he can go for Thunders later on. So wouldn't be surprised to see like a Max Geyser come out this turn, but I think Yuri definitely wants to go for a Pain Split in this position, just heal back a bunch. You see, he's opting for the double up on Conkeldurr, which I think is a very safe and consistent play. Yeah, that's just a huge survival there because this Dusclops is really difficult to knock out, and by not fainting there, you buy another turn of Lapras is G-Max, basically.
Yeah, that survival was absolutely huge because this Pain Split is going to bring Dusclops up to almost 2/3 of its health, as the Max Starfall is surely going to be enough to finish off this Conkeldurr. And as quickly as Alex has brought in new Pokemon, as swiftly as they have gone down, Lapras going for a Max Lightning, I don't even know that that's going to be enough to knock out the Dusclops. It survives again.
This Dusclops is so bulky. I mean, that's just a testament to why Dusclops is, you know, the most common Trick Room user in the format, able to take all these attacks even at -2 special defense. So while the Fake Tears was nice, it is actually Incineroar in the last, so not Dracovish, but now I don't really see how Alex can deal with the Primarina, especially because Primarina still has another turn of Max as well. So you're free to just go for something like a Pain Split and a Max Geyser. You see, Dusclops' Ghost typing is paying off huge here. It's able to, you know, be immune to both priority Mach Punches and Fake Outs from the Incineroar and the Conkeldurr. So the Incineroar and Conkeldurr are essentially useless in this matchup, right? Like, Incineroar can't do anything right now. You can't fake out either Pokemon. Primarina is free to just go for an attack, and Yuri has that Rillaboom in the back, so that should be able to handle the Lapras relatively easily this time around because he stalled out the G-Max. So really great play from Yuri, and yeah, the Dusclops hanging around just making it so much tougher for Alex in this game.
We're going to have to see some adjustments from Alex going into the next game, but is it going faster? I feel like the fact that Yuri brought the Dusclops means that Yuri is kind of trying to go for that other versatile part of this composition where you can bring in that slower mode with the Dusclops that does so much damage with the Pain Split in order to bring Incineroar within knockout range of this Max Geyser. I don't know what you bring if you're Alex.
It's so tough because, you know, the Conkeldurr and the Incineroar are Pokemon that can't really protect either, so this is why Yuri is just constantly going for these double ups. He knows it's relatively safe. He might need a Thunder Paralysis right now, but no Paralysis comes out. And no, there is actually. I spoke too soon. Okay, but now the question is whether Alex can handle this 3v1. Dynamax ends, but of course Dusclops still is able to pressure with Trick Room. I mean, one thing that's really interesting right now is we still don't know who's faster between the Rillaboom and the Lapras. There's still one turn of Dynamax as well, so Paralysis definitely keeps Alex in this. So if he calls this next turn correctly, for example, you might have to just hope for constant paras onto the Primarina and KO the Dusclops under Rain, and then maybe get a freeze onto the Rillaboom in the back, but no para comes out from the Primarina, which I think makes this very difficult to win now. Boy, and to add into the injury, that special attack drop.
Exactly. The special attack drop means that Lapras is going to dish out even less damage now, so this Hydro Pump into the Dusclops, even in the rain, not enough to knock out the Dusclops again!
This Dusclops has been at -2 special defense since turn 2 of the game, and it hasn't left, right? Like, it's taken 3-4 attacks from Lapras, and I think the Pain Split is actually paying off so huge for Yuri here, right? Like, the Dusclops is actually doing 50% of damage to Pokemon because of these Pain Splits.
Yeah, it's absolutely bonkers. Like, this is what I think Lou mentioned when, like, Dusclops has been a little bit cheeky in terms of its ability to stay on the field and dish out big damage, as well as, you know, just really mess with the ability to get knockouts, because that Dusclops has been the target of Alex's onslaught for multiple turns in a row and has yet to take the knockout here.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of surprised to see the Pain Split there instead of the Nightshade, but this time around it's going to be the Freeze Dry going on to the Dusclops. So, you know, I mean, right now, Alex is doing everything in his power to keep himself in the game. The Freeze Dry there, guaranteed connect, but the problem is that the Lapras is it has that Life Orb damage, and so it might just faint from one more turn of a Life Orb attack, right? So I don't know if it can even knock out both Pokemon here. Rillaboom comes out, of course, Rillaboom can pretty easily just go for a Fake Out, so you can just double up onto the Lapras for a KO now. Even if Fake Out doesn't KO, which I think it might, because Rillaboom is just pretty offensive in itself. I mean, Fake Out, I think, definitely KOs here, actually. And we've seen, like, the Lapras doesn't have Protect on Alex's end. But even if it doesn't KO, it'll do enough where the Lapras will faint from one more chip of Life Orb. But, oh, Rillaboom's faster!
Oh, wow. Rillaboom is going to be faster than the Lapras, so super effective Wood Hammer to knock out Alex's fourth and final Pokemon. And that is Yuri taking one game off of Alex so far, where last time we saw these two players go at it, it was the other way around.
Yeah, I think knowing that Rillaboom is faster is a really big deal. Obviously, Rillaboom's base speed is a lot higher than Lapras's, but for example, if Yuri's not running much speed investment, especially because he is that Assault Vest, a lot of players tend for like max HP and max attack investment with little speed investment. And because Alex's Lapras is on this hyper offensive team that wants to utilize Tailwind well, then, you know, I wouldn't be super shocked to see Lapras be faster. But the fact that Rillaboom is faster means that Yuri has more options to play around with that Rillaboom. Now, for example, he can lead it and even go for a Dynamax potentially. That's a possible play to make. And I think that game was actually really, really close. I think if Dusclops goes down, right, you just don't get this pain splits off anymore. Alex maybe could have considered going for a taunt onto the Dusclops to not allow it to go for those pain splits. And the fact that the Rillaboom is faster than the Lapras means under Trick Room, Lapras actually has a really good matchup against the Rillaboom. So, of course, if Yuri decides to go with the same game plan again, like, I think Alex now will maybe adjust by not going for, basically just trying to pressure the Dusclops a little bit more. And, of course, he actually brings his own Dusclops here, which I think is really smart because Dusclops can go for a Trick Room to reverse the Trick Room.
But no Dusclops coming out from Yuri, so there might not be a Trick Room to reverse because Yuri is kicking things off with Cinderace and Rillaboom, and Alex, instead of the Whimsicott, does have Dusclops next to that Lapras.
Yeah, so Cinderace and Rillaboom going back to the first set and kind of leading with that same stuff. But this time around, there's no pressure of Whimsicott. And since Alex has revealed that his Lapras doesn't have Protect, yeah, you can pretty easily double up into that slot. What makes this tricky is if you set up Trick Room, which I think Alex probably wants to do at this point because Yuri is committing to the faster mode of his team, you at least get the Gigantamax Lapras out and you can put in some work with the Lapras. But then the question is, can the Lapras deal with what Yuri has in the back? For example, Yuri really tends to go with Dusclops and Primarina as a slower mode, and that Primarina is still going to be able to take attacks well, especially without Fake Tier support this time around.
Well, the Intimidate might help out a little bit here from Alex because both Cinderace and Rillaboom are pretty susceptible to that. But Cinderace goes for a Max Knuckle into the Incineroar slots. So that's going to at least bring it back up to neutral, as Incineroar does not take that well. And Rillaboom, we saw, was going to double into that slot. And with the attack boost onto Rillaboom as well, this is still going to be neutral damage coming through from Rillaboom too.
Yeah, so Yuri making a really safe play there. The only way that play doesn't work out is there's an ally switch from Dusclops, but no ally switch. And Wood Hammer here, you know, Incineroar does resist it, and it is able to hang on, but that's still a really, really good turn one in terms of damage output. However, this time around, it's Alex who actually sets up Trick Room, now recognizing, okay, my Lapras will outspeed your Rillaboom. So what he wants to do is kind of what Yuri was trying to do previously, which is first stall out the Dynamax and then Dynamax yourself. So this time around, Alex has that Max Lapras waiting in the back. He's probably going to want to just, you know, sacrifice the Incineroar here. Incineroar could, of course, go for something like a Fake Out onto the Rillaboom. Dusclops not really in a position to do very much other than click Nightshade right now. And with Cinderace not being able to be affected by something like a Fake Out, you know, it's free to just get free damage off into the Incineroar slot. Part of what I think makes this matchup tricky for Alex is that very few of his Pokemon actually carry Protect. So Yuri is able to always get, like, guaranteed damage into one slot.
I would agree with that, as we see the Nightshade come out from Alex into what was the Rillaboom for Yuri, and a Flare Blitz as well, maybe hoping that the recoil damage is going to be enough to knock out Incineroar for a free switch, which it's not going to be because that's not Rillaboom anymore. It is Primarina, who does resist that damage. I feel like the survival of the Incineroar is very important because it doesn't allow Alex for that free switch for that first turn of Trick Room. Instead, we're seeing a stall out of at least one of these turns where we are seeing an increase in damage yet again because of the Max Knuckle from the Cinderace.
Yeah, and one thing that's, I think, actually kind of tough for Alex right now is he gets the free switch in, but he can't actually knock out the Cinderace. So if he doesn't have something like Haze, which can just get rid of the stat boost, the Cinderace can still get a +1 Max Knuckle off boosted by that Life Orb into Lapras. I think if Alex wants to win, he has to stall out this last turn of Dynamax. But we know the Lapras doesn't have Protect, so he might be forced into bringing his last Pokemon. If he brings in the Lapras right now, he's basically committing to taking a ton of damage. I mean, even if the Dusclops has Haze, you still won't be able to prevent all that damage from Max Knuckle. I mean, you reduce the damage a little bit by getting rid of that attack boost, but it's a pretty tricky position. Like, in an ideal world, if Alex had the Incineroar, he'd switch it in here, get that Intimidate, stall the last turn of Dynamax, but he's either forced to bring in the Lapras right now or the fourth Pokemon, and yeah, I mean, it's pretty tricky because if, for example, the fourth Pokemon is Conkeldurr, well, the Primarina outspeeds that Conkeldurr and can just go for something like a Moonblast. So right now, and his Lapras coming back out, so yeah, the fact that the Libero has put in so much work right now is not good only offensively, but also from a defensive standpoint.
Absolutely. As there are only 3 turns of Trick Room left, if Alex decides to go for the Gigantamax now, then Alex gets a full value from using the Trick Room turns that Dusclops has been able to set up a couple of turns prior. But Rillaboom is still in the back, so even if Lapras is able to get a knockout onto Cinderace, then the Rillaboom is still there, pressuring a lot of damage after the Trick Room is over, because Yuri still hasn't shown us that 4th and final Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, what's tough here for Alex is you want to go for a G-Max Resonance maybe to set up the screens. If not, maybe you recognize, okay, I really need to knock out the Cinderace this turn. You could go for something like or actually because the Resonance is boosted off Blizzard, I think Resonance is always pretty fine into the Cinderace. But he might be worried about the Primarina, so you could offer something like a Max Lightning. I mean, Dusclops probably just wants to Nightshade continuously, which is exactly what Alex goes for here. So the big question is whether Cinderace can survive an attack from the Life Orb Lapras right now. Here we go.
Max Resonance comes out. So this is we're about to find out whether or not Cinderace can get through it. And it does. It hangs on. It will be able to survive through that G-Max Resonance plus that Life Orb damage. And even though we do see this Lapras set up the Aurora Veil, it's another Max Knuckle that is coming out from the Cinderace, and Lapras barely hangs on.
That's so much damage there, and this is kind of what happens when you go up against a Cinderace and you don't have Protect on anything. Like, this Trick Room went up, and we still saw Cinderace, you know, stick around for all these turns of Trick Room and Max, and that's so much damage onto Lapras now that I think makes it very difficult for Alex to have a shot at winning this now, because the Primarina is also underspeeding the Lapras. So we haven't seen Dusclops' full moveset yet. He hasn't gone for Ally Switch at any point, which makes me think he doesn't have it, because Ally Switch would actually have been a pretty safe play the last couple turns. And so without that threat of redirection, I mean, Primarina here is really free to just launch a Moonblast into Lapras. And Yuri still has all 4 of his Pokemon, despite Trick Room going up. Yeah, the main problem is that Alex needed to stall out the Dynamax from the Cinderace, and that one Max Knuckle alone was just so much added damage onto the Lapras.
Yeah, definitely would be in knockout range if you saw Rillaboom come back out here, but poor Lapras hasn't been able to get too much done, and Cinderace just preserving itself for a little bit later. Yuri opting to bring Cinderace back into the Pokeball, but Pain Split now.
The self-Pain Split.
The Dusclops onto the Lapras. I like the side Pain Split, but it will allow Lapras to survive through this Moonblast and get off another attack, but Max Lightning into the Rillaboom isn't going to do too much damage at all, as it's not very effective. And even though it sets up the Electric Terrain for maybe some Thunders coming through later, that Lapras is still very low.
Yeah, love the self-Pain Split play there from Alex. I think if he wants a chance of winning, I mean, it's pretty much conserving the Lapras. But what's interesting now is you could actually go for yet another self-Pain Split, heal yourself a little bit more. But, I mean, Yuri right now is basically stalling out Dynamax, also stalling out Trick Room. And the Primarina is still always going to attack first before the Lapras. So he has plenty of options here. I mean, you don't want to go for something like a Fake Out. You know the Lapras is going to outspeed you and can go for a G-Max Resonance. So maybe you just give up the Rillaboom. I think the Max Lightning there, yeah, the previous turn, you know, sets up the Electric Terrain, but I can't help but think, yeah, maybe if Alex gone for another Resonance and just gotten a KO on that Rillaboom in the switch in, would have actually been able to swing a fair amount of momentum into his favor. But these self-Pain Splits are smart, and looks like Yuri, because he recognizes the Rillaboom is faster, wants to switch out here so that Rillaboom can come out once Trick Room is over.
Yeah, I really like this play, because if that Lapras decides to target down the Cinderace slot, then that's a free switch for Yuri after the Trick Room is over. Primarina uses Moonblast, though, onto the Dusclops, bringing it below half, and G-Max Resonance now coming out from Alex's Lapras into the Cinderace. So that would have been a knockout had it been the Rillaboom, but it's Cinderace here.
Yeah, so Cinderace takes that damage. Lapras still hangs on despite Life Orb, but more importantly for Yuri, Trick Room is now over. So with the Rillaboom being faster than both the Dusclops and the Lapras, that's a really big deal. You get it in for free. And what's interesting here is, you know, Fake Out into the Lapras is super, super safe. And once the Lapras faints, the question is, does Alex even want Trick Room to go up? Because we haven't seen his last Pokemon yet. He's been hesitant to bring it out. And for example, if his last Pokemon is something like that Conkeldurr, well, Conkeldurr under Trick Room is actually going to be slower than Primarina, because we've seen that this Primarina is super, super slow. So this is where it gets a little awkward. Does Alex want to go for another Trick Room? Of course, Yeah, because Rillaboom is faster, the knockoff that Yuri's opting for is guaranteed to go first and potentially just knock out that Dusclops. So Lapras will feign from another bit of chip from that Life Orb damage as well. So Yuri still hasn't even revealed his last Pokemon. And with that Lapras just taking so much damage from that Max Knuckle earlier, I think Yuri's in a commanding spot. And it really comes down to what Alex's last Pokemon is. And if it's Breakovich, for example, you don't want to set up Trick Room. If it's Conkeldurr, you even have to ask yourself if you want to. I think Pain Splitting might be the way to go.
I really like this U-turn play from Yuri because not only does it secure the knockout onto Lapras, but it also sets up for a potential Conkeldurr in the back because that fourth and final Pokemon for Yuri is going to be this Togekiss. So just ends up setting up so much pressure where Alex is going to be very uncomfortable if it is that Conkeldurr or even if it's that Dracovish. We were able to see that Togekiss at least like survive. And oh, the critical hit Moonblast! Oh my goodness, that is going to be a double knockout here for Yuri.
Yeah, I want to say that the Dusclops would have survived without that crit, and perhaps it would have, could have gone for something like a Pain Split to heal all the way back. It is Conkeldurr as the last one, so I really like the call out you made to that U-turn play. Exactly like you said, this Togekiss covers for that Conkeldurr, and now I think Yuri in a pretty commanding position. You can go for a double protect here, which is what he's opting for. Just stall out the turn of Aurora Veil, and then what you can do is just go for something like a Follow Me and a Moonblast. Given that it's a 3v1, it's really tough for Conkeldurr to knock out each single Pokemon. You're basically going to need a bunch of critical hits there. But what was tricky there is even if the Dusclops hung on, I think it pretty much needed to go for Pain Split. If it went for Trick Room, then Yuri still wins this because the Primarina just puts in so much work. But yeah, I want to say Dusclops was going to hang on without that crit, so that might have been a big deal here.
I think you're right about that being a really big deal because as we've seen how pesky Dusclops can be, surviving on that last little bit of HP, I definitely feel like that could have played a factor in allowing this Conkeldurr to get knockouts, especially if it's going to be more of the bulkier variant coming out from the Conkeldurr. But now that we see the Aurora Veil has vanished, it's time for Yuri to step on the gas, and here comes Togekiss's Dazzling Gleam into Conkeldurr, and that is going to bring it down below half. So Thunder Punch might come out, but oh, that is going to be a knockout here.
Yeah, picks up the knockout, but no way for Conkeldurr to really seal it up at this point. 1 versus 3, right? The Rillaboom can come out, you have Fake Out, Dazzling Gleam, and with Rillaboom and Togekiss both being faster than Conkeldurr, this should be a win for Yuri. But I can't help but think, but the first and second game, despite this being a 2-0, is actually closer than the score may indicate. That first game, if the Dusclops goes down, things might change dramatically. In the second game, I would say Alex was playing from behind, but if Dusclops hangs on there and gets a Pain Split off, that could be a really big deal. Now we're just going to see Fake Out, Dazzling Gleam. Should be enough to pick up the KO, and it is. So Yuri is actually going to take the first set.
Wow, so that's going to be Yuri taking the first set, and a bracket reset has to come through now because it was Alex that was in the winner's seed for this grand